Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. It's now 152 days since Russia invaded Ukraine. During the last 24 hours, Russian missiles have damaged at least 40 civilian buildings in the Donbas. The Russians fired on a number of towns and small towns there, mainly in the Donetsk region. In the Kharkiv region, the Russians attacked the city of Chuhuiv. During the last 24 hours, the Ukrainian Air Force shot down all 4 cruise missiles fired towards the Khmelnytsky region from the waters of the Black Sea. Yesterday, the Ukrainian Air Force conducted 10 airstrikes against groups of Russian troops in the south and east of the country. The summary of the combat day in the southern section is as follows. The enemy army has been reduced by 66 Russians, 5 tanks, 2 self-propelled howitzers, anti-tank missile system, 3 armoured units and 9 units of military equipment. A special forces observation point of the Russian National Guard and 2 ammunition warehouses were also destroyed. The Ukrainian counteroffensive began the day before yesterday and troops are gradually advancing in the Kherson area, on the southern section of the front. Data on detailed territorial conquests are not made public for tactical reasons. The Ukrainians also retain conquered territories east of Kharkiv. Even the Russians admit that Ukraine will win, which can be heard in their conversations with their loved ones when they contact them. Therefore, we will not slow down and, as every day for 5 months, we will do everything to inflict as much damage on the enemy as possible and collect as much support for Ukraine as possible. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, since the 24th of February, the Russians have lost approximately 39,700 soldiers, 1,730 tanks and nearly 4,000 armoured vehicles. The Russian offensive was halted shortly after Ukrainian forces started using the HIMARS missile system supplied by the United States. The invaders were forced to withdraw their logistics, ammunition depots or command posts all along the front line. The introduction of HIMARS, also according to the Russian assessments, is the 3rd stage of the war. It fundamentally changed the rules of operation, forced increased rotation of Russian troops and movement of equipment. In turn, in the eastern section, after the capture of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, the Russian forces tried to take control of the rest of the Luhansk Oblast. They carried out 3 massive artillery strikes, 2 mortar attacks and 3 tank assaults against Ukrainian positions. Ultimately, the assault failed and the Russians retreated, suffering losses. The Russians are not stopping the shelling of civilian and infrastructure facilities. The missiles hit the Sumy and Dnipropetrovsk regions. In the Kharkiv region, in Chuhuiv, they ended up in a school and a community centre. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that Sunday's air raid on Odessa should not affect Ukrainian grain exports. Kiev maintains that the agreement is in jeopardy, although preparations are underway to resume exports. Soon the Russians will completely run out of steam. The former head of the air mobile troops, General Dariusz Vronsky, points out that the so-called pause in the Russian offensive signifies the weakness of this army, which is lacking troops. After all, in the vicinity of Kherson, today the Russian attack was stopped and even pushed to the southeast. The head of the office of President Vladimir Zelensky, Andriy Yermak, announced the arrival of Polish PT-91 tanks to Ukraine. A friend in need is a friend indeed. With this entry, the presidential advisor expects his gratitude for the fulfillment of the promise made by Warsaw. 2 days of consultations between the presidents of Poland and Lithuania have begun in Hell. Andrzej Duda and Gitanas Nausėda will talk about the situation in the region. The meeting of the leaders was planned several days ago during a visit to the region of the Suwałki Gap in northeast Poland, the border between Poland and Lithuania, between Russian Kaliningrad and Belarus.
I would like to thank my friend Gitanas Nausėda for his visit and very valuable consultations. Poland and Lithuania have been supporting Ukraine from the beginning and opposing the tyranny and imperialism of the Kremlin. We discuss and consult on all our major joint activities. The politicians discussed the situation in Ukraine and Belarus, the energy policies of Poland and Lithuania, and their relations in the security sphere, as well as the current state of European Union sanctions against Russia. In the statement from the meeting, we read that Poland and Lithuania are among the closest partners in matters of regional cooperation and security. Over the past year alone, Presidents Andrzej Duda and Gitanas Nausėda have met more than a dozen times. Together with the leaders of Latvia and Estonia, they were also the first presidents to visit Kiev. Poland and Lithuania also cooperate with the B3 Plus Poland group, which brings together, in addition to Poland, the 3 Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia.
Today, former Ukrainian soccer player Andriy Shevchenko called for more mental health support for young refugees after a surprise visit to meet children who have fled the horrors of war in the country. Shevchenko and his son Jordan visited a summer school in Warsaw that is helping children from Ukraine catch up on missed learning and play. Since the conflict began over 5 months ago, at least 5.8 million refugees from Ukraine have been recorded across Europe, half of whom are estimated to be children, with many having had no access to education for weeks. Save the Children's summer schools for children from Ukraine in Poland are providing a safe haven where young refugees can boost their education, mental health and psychosocial well-being.
Some children saw his parents been killed. And then this program gonna help, through physical activity and in the points when they just playing, just release that tension, they forget about all the very bad things would happen in Ukraine. Just get him back to normal life. Playing with other kids, to communicate it, try to bring the kids, to be happy, to play around and forget about the war.
Shevchenko, 45, former captain and coach of the Ukraine national team and a striker for AC Milan and Chelsea, spent time at the school where he visited Team Up, an intervention designed to improve children's mental health and psychosocial well-being through play. Many of the children Shevchenko met are experiencing uncertainty, fear and distress on a daily basis. Even when finding safety in another country, they are often silent and withdrawn or brazen and overbearing. Summer schools will give these children the opportunity to explore and process their emotional experiences with sports and play, while ensuring that they don't fall behind in their learning. On the second day of Pope Francis's pilgrimage to Canada, the Holy Father was in a wheelchair as he was met at Edmonton Airport by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. During his visit to Canada, Pope Francis is expected to ask the representatives of the Indigenous peoples for forgiveness for the suffering they suffered from the church institutions. The cases of abuse of Native American children in Catholic schools and orphanages shocked Canada.
I teared up, and I think it's just because I have such immense respect for him, particularly this Pope who is focused on reconciliation and understanding what's gone on here in Canada, and I think that that's of critical importance, and so I tremendously respect the fact that he's come here to Canada to try to heal some of those wounds.
I mean, he was answering to a call. I think it comes in the spirit of Catholic forgiveness and seeking forgiveness. So he lives up to his words and to our faith, so that's something that's deeply appreciated.
During his visit, Pope Francis is to apologize for the church practices disclosed in recent years in schools, boarding houses, and orphanages where children from Canada's Indigenous tribes were placed. There, they were often treated cruelly under the pretext of education, and attempts were made to erase their ethnic or cultural identity. Forced separation from their parents and the methods used against them later resulted in many mental problems and suicides. Today, the Pope is traveling to areas inhabited by Indigenous peoples, where he will make his first official speech and address the Catholic Church's responsibility for the injustices committed.
Earlier today, the Eurovision Song Contest organisers announced that the United Kingdom will stage next year's competition on behalf of this year's winner, Ukraine, which is unable to host the contest because of the continuing war with Russia. While a decades-long tradition dictates that the winner of the contest hosts it the following year, the European Broadcasting Union had said safety and security reasons meant runners-up Great Britain were instead invited to host the contest. The European Broadcasting Union announced that the BBC will now stage the event, which normally draws a television audience of close to 200 million and was last held in Great Britain in 1998. Ukraine will automatically qualify to the grand final of the competition. Britain's entry to this year's Eurovision contest in Italy in May came second behind Ukraine's Kalush Orchestra, which rode a wave of public support to claim an emotional victory. The BBC said it would now begin the process of finding a city to host the event. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.